Are we saying godfathers are bad in politics? Not really. If the godfather can pilot his godson in a way that his sense of delivery will be veritable, will be productive, will be, will be profitable to the majority. But in a case whereby the godfather pilots his godson in a way that everybody appears to be living a lie, or to be living a lie, not a life, then people will rise up one day. People will say no to it. Godfatherism is what the people of Edo State stand against. It's not about PDP. The victory of Godwin Obaseki is not about PDP or APC. It was just a victory against forceful political presence. A time will come in the land that people will need a renaissance, a revolution. You cannot continue to lead people in a way that does not benefit them in the entirety. You cannot continue to lead people in a way that social justice is not found. You cannot be continue to lead people in a way that economic emancipation is diluted with economic victimization. You cannot put the economic power of a state in the hand of non-state actors. Yes, it's another very brilliant moment for us to share ideas and for us to thank God, really, to thank God, to appreciate God for what God has done, especially in our lives and in the life of political consciousness in Nigeria. Today is the 20th of September, year 2020, and something wonderful just happened in Edo State today. Edo State in Nigeria, that is southern Nigeria. And just a few hours ago, we just got the results. Sorry, what's the time now? I think this is 5 p.m. in the evening, and we just got the result some 30 minutes ago that Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State has been returned as the governor. Well, for me, that is joy, because in the last 2-3 weeks, it appears I took position, but actually I didn't take position. I was just trying to be principled. And I think a lot of people in this generation, at this season of our lifetime, we should be principled. We should know what to say and what to ask for ourselves. And I want to also let us know that the Edo election has a lot to teach us in terms of common sense revolution, in terms of renaissance, and in terms of opinionated decisions. We live in a season and in a climate when people cannot defend themselves, when people cannot take courage, when people cannot take they cannot take their own decision. People take sides. People take sides. People sit on the fence. People pretend a lot. You might sit with somebody now. You are discussing something that is very cogent to social life, and you both discuss. You both agree. But before you know it, on the other side is doing some other things. So for Godwin Obaseki, the governor of Edo State to have taken that challenging decision to challenge the Godfather and to challenge the political establishment and to say, no, this is where we are going. I think we should salute him. But before that, I want to salute the courage of people of Edo State. Edo State people, thank you so much. Thank you for the courage. I mean, it's not easy. I look so deep and I imagine what you have independently done. I imagine what people in Edo West, Edo South, Edo North, Edo Central, what you have been able to do to bring about this courageous decision, to bring about this courageous renaissance, to bring about this courageous political reform. I mean, of course, a few years ago, we have Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, and the issue of Comrade Adams Oshiomhole is very peculiar because this is somebody who was groomed from the background of advocacy. Is somebody who was groomed from the background of political advocacy, and he is a child of circumstance. I can say he came from the very, very lowest rung of the society. He rose through the ladder. He has fought battles in the past. He was a former Labour Congress chairman. He was a former Labour leader. Even though his Labour leadership was not too smooth enough in terms of being straightforward and all that, we knew several times that under his leadership, strikes were being called and people plunged themselves into the mode of the strike, and suddenly, midway, he pulled out. But we didn't look at that. Everybody channeled their energy. People supported him onto his political life, and he became the governor of Edo State. And if you remember critically, I have had a situation whereby we met him in halls when he was campaigning. There was a time he came to Lagos, and there was an event organized. I was there, I think at somewhere in VI, a very big hall. I wouldn't really recall. I think 4 points. I think it's 4 points. We met him, and there are a lot of things he said about politics, about ideology, about everything. And what happened then? In those days, the Igbinedions were very powerful in Benin, in Edo State. They were the lord of the manor, and we particularly saw what Lucky Igbinedion did. I remember when I was in Fame magazine, we were in Benin for the Tema Award, and we saw the Igbinedions at very close range. We saw the way they love good life. I mean, particularly the governor. And for that season in Edo State, a lot of people didn't like what happened. People were calling for change, for renaissance, for new leadership. And in between, Lucky did 2 times. And all of us remember that when he failed in his first term, there was this joke. It was a social joke. It was a political joke that there was a day Chief Anthony Anini, the late Chief Anthony Anini, who was a political leader in those days too, is now late, was telling the late the late Gabriel, the late Chief Tony Anene, who was a political juggernaut in those days and who was a former Minister of Works, and he was a very powerful force in Benin, in Edo State entirely. And there was this joke between him and Gabriel, Chief Gabriel, the Osawaru of Benin Kingdom, about his son Lucky failing in his first term. And he said, your son didn't do well in his first 4 years. And we learned that Chief Gabriel told him that, well, if a child fails in a class, what do? Do you send him out of the school, or you let him repeat? And on this pedestal of joke, on this backdrop, Lucky was allowed to run his second term. But even at that second term, nothing was achieved as far as we are concerned. It was just political jamboree, a lot of noise. We knew what happened then. We knew those days of David Ioa and Friday Tula. It was always one crisis or the other at the Anthony Nauro House. That's the legislative arm of the state. Eventually, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole came, and he was the bride. All of us went haywire. We loved him. We campaigned. We so much cherish that moment, that opportunity. And his slogan, as we all knew then, was that he's going to stop Godfatherism in Edo State, and that he's going to create a clean state that is going to change the atmosphere. Of course, he came and he was able to do that. And even his deputy, Chief Odubu, I think Festus Odubu or something, he went through a lot. He was intimidated, he was sidelined. He was used much more like an auxiliary gearbox. An auxiliary gear, let me put it that way. A lot of people was going to give it, I think it's Philip Odubu or something. I can't recall the first name. But Odubu. We were thinking he was going to give power to Odubu, but unfortunately, he brought this young man called Godwin Obaseki. And Godwin, by God's grace, was to continue from where Oshiomhole stopped after 2 terms. But don't forget that Adams Oshiomhole made us believe that he's stopping Godfatherism, that there was nothing like Godfatherism. Let me also tell you that we are in a new season. We've seen what politics has done for us in Nigeria. I want to let you know this. You are watching this broadcast, you might have few argument with me. Some of you might not even like my face. You might not even like my voice. You might even disagree with me in terms of opinion. But I want you to reflect on how democracy has affected you, because the Benin case study is something that we must all learn from today. And that's why I'm doing this broadcast. It's an emergency broadcast. And I'm sorry, I have to let you know it's an emergency broadcast. When we got the result across board and the paper started brimming with nice news. This morning I got my this day, and there was a lot of wonderful, very wonderful appraising news. I also got Punch, and they all have beautiful, lovely headlines about the Edo governorship election. Now, let me tell you, you must gauge your democracy from your sense of living or from the cost of living. You look at your living condition. Your democracy will reflect in the level of good road, in the level of cost of living, in the level of necessities in terms of service, in the level of good health or bad health. I mean, you can measure your democracy. You can measure what it means for you to have a beautiful democracy. If you have a democracy whereby every year in, year out, somebody sit down and appoint somebody to go, and the person, after 4 years, there is nothing to write home about his leadership. After 4 years, you have to travel on a particular road that's supposed to take you just 15 minutes. You have to be stuck there for 2-3 hours. The issue of traffic, the issue of bad roads, the issue of security, the issue of the cost of living itself, and the issue of transportation. Look, anything that is at the basics, things that affect the ordinary people, any democracy that cannot make those things suitable is not a democracy again. You hear me again? Anything that cannot give peace to the common man in terms of amenities, in terms of service. If for you to transport yourself from A to Z, you have to pay a fortune, you have to pay through your nose. If for you to get good health, you have to pay through your nose, and in most cases people are even dying. If for you to be on the road, your car have to cry and you have to visit the vulcanizer or the mechanic severally in a month or in a week. If what you are taking as a salary is not good enough for you to sustain yourself, you have to pay a fortune to even have light in your house. Then you question the democracy. You question the character of that democracy. Nobody loves, in this generation, I don't think majority love this godfatherism thing. You might support it. You might say, oh yes, Obaseki was brought in there by a godfather. But let me also tell you, I've just traced the lineage back to when Oshiomhole came into power. He said, I'm going to stop godfatherism here. So I've just said it now. I've let you know that we trace it back. I'm just saying that we just trace it back. And I try to give you a chronology of what Chief Adams Oshiomhole said, that he is stopping Godfatherism in Edo State. And if that is the case, then there must be a build-up. And that is what Governor Obaseki came to compliment, because he felt that, yes, we should be able to have a new slate. We should be able to have people that can come and build upon what was built upon before. Of course, we might not be very available to a lot of things, but when you look at the issue of Edo State, if you look at the critical issue, and if you look at the uproar, you look at the euphoria, the political euphoria, you see that a whole lot of orientation tilts towards liberating the state from Godfatherism. And that is the basic of the victory of this election. Without sounding immodest, I want to congratulate people of Edo State, the Edolites, for their courage, for their sense of dignity, for their presence of mind, and also their sense of political maturity. I want to appreciate you for your political maturity. I want to tell you that this is a very new, it's a new drive, a new direction, and it's very, very germane to the trajectory of politics, especially in the last 2 decades since 1999 that we went back to democracy. Of course, like I said at that time, you might not like my face, you might not like my voice, but you must vet the quality of living under your democracy. I bought a book recently when I was traveling to Abuja, and the book was telling me about why nations fail, the origins of power, prosperity, and poverty. Why nations fail, the origin of power, prosperity, and poverty. And if you look at it, I've started to read the book, and these are the indications, these are the indices that left us behind. But let's now look at some other critical, poignant issues that affected this Edo election, because I don't want this broadcast to be too long. I just want to, it's an appreciative broadcast. I want to appreciate the courage of Edo State citizens. Number one is that Governor Godwin Obaseki decided to fight a cause. And he told his people, he carried them along, he sang a new song. He said, we are going to build upon it. We are going to stop Godfatherism. He was not the originator of that idea, but Governor Oshiomhole, his predecessor, was the one that said we are stopping Godfatherism in Edo State, and he stopped it. With the Igbinedions family, he stopped them. He made sure that every other person that came, all the generals that he tried to sponsor, and every other politician, didn't really matter. Okay, now let's look at it. You said this guy should not come again. He disappointed you. He did this, he did that. But the guy said, people said they want him. Okay, when we did our background checking, we learned that there were a lot of things that the governor was trying to reform. If you look at the Edo State issue, you look at Lagos State issue, you see that there is almost a thin line between the two. In the case of Governor Ambode, I will be very specific. Let's give kudos to Mr. Philip Shuaibu, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, who stood behind his principal from day one to this very last day. I recall that in 2019, when the same situation presented itself with Governor Ambode, it was not the same thing. During the election, during the heat-up, when the Godfather said he cannot go for a second time, and you see why this really pains us is that, why this really put us in a challenge situation is that Ambode really worked in Lagos. The only problem with him was that he was a bit apolitical, and maybe because he has seen a lot of things inside the politics of Lagos. But everybody agreed, from south to west, from north to east, across the world, that Ambode worked. But let us look at the situation between him and Godwin Obaseki. In the case of Godwin Obaseki, we had a deputy governor who said, I'm going to stand by my boss, no matter the tension, no matter the pressure, no matter the bitterness, no matter the deliberate act of the Godfathers. But in Akim Ambode's own, we had his deputy governor, one Mrs. Ronti Adebule, who quickly pulled out at the dying minute and said, look, I'm not going to follow him, I'm going to follow the party. Well, she might have said that out of ignorance, political ignorance. But today we are remembering her for that. We are remembering the fact. And let me also tell you, this is the Edo State indication, the Edo State political victory is a new renaissance. Philip Tribal supported. He gave all his loyalty, his struggle, his sense of labor, his sense of leadership, his sense of dignity to support his technocrat boss. But look at what happened in Lagos. The woman pulled out. I also recall many years ago when Governor Fashola was trying to come back for a second time. The Godfather said no, that in fact it was like they wanted him to play the role of a CEO. After one time he should go and nobody should be allowed. But Mrs. Sarah Soshan, his deputy, then also stood by him. And when they saw that the good work of Barrister Raji Fashola was too sounding, was too pronounced, they decided to allow him fly, but they removed that very wonderful, dutiful, sincere woman, Mrs. Sarah Soshan. And I think they gave him one woman from maybe Alimo Osho area of Lagos. They gave him one Adejoke Adefulure, who is still in the system now. Well, we could say that is party loyalty, but it is time that we discuss this in high proportion. Well, there is a level you get to in your life that you tell yourself the truth, you tell your leadership the truth. If Sarah Soshan believed in Fashola and she was not going to dance to the tune, she sees vision, she sees his dream as genuine. And some party hawks decide that, oh, she has offended them and they removed her. But we thank God that plus or minus, Barrister Tunde Fashola, Baba Tunde Fashola was able to complete his 8 years. Now, come to Edo State. The people decided to say no to Godfatherism. When you look at it, even what happened in Kogi State, which is unfortunate, you see the level of decadence, political decadence, brigandage, and all the rest. In Kogi, you saw what happened. There were killings, there was intimidation. In fact, an entire human being was born in a house. I think a PDP woman leader, the story is everywhere. People lost their life. There was so much intimidation. Why should politics be so violent? Because you want to lead me? Does that say that you should be so violent? Does that say that you should intimidate, you should rough handle, you should make life dangerous because you want to serve me? It does not make sense to me. Then you quickly take it back to Osun State. I think that was how many years ago now? Look at the Osun State case. If not for the fact that the person that we expected to prepare himself also messed up. But you could see that the atmosphere in Osun was to have Senator Adeleke in power. The people came out, vote buying or not vote buying, but the people were determined only for some political forces to halt the election in the name of inconclusiveness and all the rest. And at the end of the day, you did the recontest, and there are a lot of shenanigans, a lot of bad precedences and all that. How can you do an election and you brought touts to come and harass people, to intimidate people, and eventually you said the man has won? Till today, when I look at that governor, when I look at him, I feel sad. Of course, Senator Isiaka didn't do well, and that's why we tell all young people today, make sure you do what you need to do at the right time. If Senator Isiaka has done well in his education, if he has done well, if he has sat well for his exam, we wouldn't have the challenge, we wouldn't have the apathy of blaming him for losing out. It wouldn't have counted. It could have been something that we now count against him in a future that came so quicker than he expected. You understand? If he has been able to do what he ought to do at the right time, maybe that would have counted for him. But the mood of that election in Osun State was to also get away vested interest. Everything you saw in Edo today is because of vested interest. It is high time that Nigerians, we young people, we tell ourselves the truth. And I want to also salute Edo State, the people of Edo State, that I also learned that some people rejected money. Now let me tell you about this money thing. Let me tell you, what is the essence of somebody giving you 5,000 on the day of election or dashing you 10,000? In fact, it's not even up to that, because we saw situation whereby people collected 3,000, 2,000, 4,000 in elections before now. What is the essence of somebody giving you 4,000 at the polling booth and you allow him to rule you for 4 years? Are you going to spend 4,000 naira in 4 years? Are you going to use 4,000 naira to do a business in 4 years? And how much is going to be your gain in 4 years? Why should somebody give you 2 derricks of rice on the day of election? Why should somebody line you up and give you 200 naira, 500 naira, or miserable 1,000 naira on the day of election, like they normally do in some areas that we know? Why should you allow people to insult your sense of existence? It means that you don't exist. If somebody can come and buy your confidence for 1,000 naira, if somebody can come and buy your conscience for 2,000 naira, if somebody can come and buy your conscience for 2 pack of Indomie noodles or 1 derrick of rice, a pack of sugar and some other miserable gifts, it is an insult, not just to your person, but to your destiny. And that is what the Edo State people did. Let's travel back to some years ago in Edo State. We had what they called Diboko Sebe. Things were so bad. And because the governor was taking it over from another regime that has pauperized people, that have made them look so miserable. But because of that day of election, they brought it up. It is slogan, Diboko Sebe. Diboko Sebe means vote and cook a new pot of soup. Okay, now, if they give you 2,000 naira and you cook a new pot of soup that very day, how long will that soup last you? Will it last you 2, 3, 4 years that political individual is going to rule? Diboko Sebe. Then another one came to Ekiti. We learned people were saying Dibo Korale. It was bad, and it is still bad. In leadership, people should not force themselves upon you, and that is why I'm doing this broadcast. We are doing this broadcast to encourage and to salute the courage of the people of Edo State. Opinion should not be mortgaged. People's will should not be mortgaged. Either Obaseki is good or bad. He was able to set a precedence. He was able to lay a foundation. He said, my predecessor said goodbye to Godfatherism. For God's sake, Governor Adams Oshiomhole was able, he tried. At least he was a far, far, far better administrator away from the old regime of Governor Lucky Igbinedions. Even the PDP, we didn't need that PDP interaction. Why won't you allow somebody that you put there to continue if he has an iota of management, an iota of discipline? From what we gathered, we learned that this guy came and said, we don't want out in town. We don't want non-state actors to be in charge of economic development or in charge of taking tickets and all that. In Lagos today, you see all these things on the road and you feel so bad for yourself. You cannot enter a transport, a vehicle, without people rough handling the driver or the conductor, taking some amorious amount from them. They take so much amount of money from these guys and it bounces back on the ordinary people. A place, a kilometer you're supposed to pay 15 naira. Today now, they are taking 200 naira. Some people wake up in the morning, you go to some bus stops in Lagos and you pity the level of crowdiness. People are there hanging around. The money in their pocket cannot take them in, take them out. Some beg on the street, some beg for a whole sort of things. Okay, when Governor Godwin Obaseki came, according to what we gathered in Benin, he didn't want that kind of a thing. He wants state actors to be in charge of levies in the motor parks, in the garages, even especially in the transport. The transport sector is one of the biggest sectors. You can't put non-state actors, touts, area boys to be taking charge of that sector. And that is why every reasonable government across the world invests heavily in transport and subsidize so that movement will be very cheap. But in a state, in an environment that they tell you that one non-state actor is the one in charge of taxes, levies, and the ripple effects come to affect the people. People cannot come out, people cannot go out. You take the piece of the people away. The money they ought to use to eat, they spend it on transport. Eventually, they don't get any results. So, and when the guy came in, he accordingly took some interest out of the streets. So why should that spite his godfather? Why? I mean, a godfather should be somebody that will put someone somewhere and moderate him. I have seen Adams Oshiomhole go to events where he took the microphone and he praised Obaseki. He spoke so glowingly about him, about things he's doing. So in what second, in what twinkling of an eye, did the whole story change? Cheaper. Why did you decide to start destroying him? Because he was not doing what? And if you look at it, it's also happened in Lagos. We're going to do a video where we're going to analyze the Lagos issue. Governor Ambode will have also catapulted. He will have done the same thing. He will have decamped, but the House of Assembly was on his neck because that is the potpourri, the political potpourri of the Godfather. He was intimidated with impeachments. He was intimidated with a whole lot of things. He was disorganized. Imagine a technocrat that is so concentrated. Somebody that built 22 roads, new roads in the hinterland. Somebody that took Lagos from some hinterlands. Took Lagos from another direction. Who did a lot in terms of development, road network, opening of Lagos, even up to Ogun State. And suddenly you took him out because you said it's not political, it's not this, it's not that. It is not every season you will have a fashola in the Oval House. It is not every season you will have a Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the Oval House. Once in a while, you're going to have people who want to do things in a different way. Now, should it mean that every day, every time, people will take rappers, take judges, and and be dancing and be singing and be running around? Will it mean that every day people will go to cell meeting and you will share 1,000, share 200? Why can't we direct? Why can't we deviate that energy and find prospective areas we're going to put these people? Why should you go to local government areas and you see young boys sitting as touts at the gate? Young boys that are living permanently on shepherd, living permanently on smoking, harassing people, doing orisa. There is hardly a local government you go, you don't see this kind of people. Why can't we create a system that will engage them? These are very productive men in their productive years, and the only thing they can do is to be bouncers, body praisers, hailers. It's so very unfortunate. You go out, you see a lot of people. Today now you see task forces coming to come and harass harass people, and you see everything back, and that's what Obaseki wanted to check. We're going to claim Benin up. We are not going to allow that. But look at it. Look at what happened now. You said you're going to remove him, but because the people saw that there was a difference, that the difference is clear, just like 7-Up, and they said, no, Governor Obaseki, you cannot do this to us. They said, no, Chairman Oshiomhole, you cannot do this to us. And they stood by their Godwin. They stood by their Obaseki. You know, they stood by a man they believe would deliver them. I'm just doing this as just a free will broadcast. And that is how Renaissance started. The 13th century Renaissance we talk about, the 13th and 14th century Renaissance started this way. From the 1350s to the 1700s, people started to reject some level of political influences. People started to redefine their political life. Are we saying godfathers are bad in politics? Not really. If the godfather can pilot his godson in a way that his sense of delivery will be veritable, will be productive, will be will be profitable to the majority. But in a case whereby the godfather pilots his godson in a way that everybody appears to be living a lie, or to be living a lie, not a life, then people will rise up one day. People will say no to it. People will challenge that obnoxious audacity. People will challenge it. It's an obnoxious audacity. In Kwara, it was challenged, and the people had their way. Today it is Edo State. Even in Osun State, it was challenged. But a lot of other things added up. A lot of other things minus the gain of the struggle. For instance, Senator Isiaka Adeleke, who's supposed to have tidied up his educational end, disappointed. Very respectable man, very jovial, humble, easygoing, but in his young age, he didn't know that a day like this will come when leadership will fall on his shoulder. He never imagined in his life that his brother, who is a politician, will be demised, and the brother, who is a businessman, will not be inclined towards politics, and he will be called in to take the mantle. He took the mantle, but look at how it turned out. He was able to gain ground with the political endorsement in the senatorial district. Everybody supported him. It was a sympathy vote. It was going to happen in the governorship. It was also a sympathy vote in the governorship. Until today, if you look at the credibility of that election, if you look at the character, the spirit of that election, everything tilted toward Senator Isiaka Adeleke. People wanted him. I have papers of the morning of that election that suggested that he won. But look at it. Inconclusive election. INEC declared. And by the time they did the runoff, look at the way the runoff was not as pure as the real election. It was muddled. There was a lot of moody activities, a lot of muzzle-ups. That is not what we want. You cannot say you want to lead people and you have to get it by hook and crook. It does not put you in a good perspective. History will not record it well. History will always belabor you in the negative. History will never belabor you in the positive. So back to Oshiomhole and Godwin Obaseki. Back to Godwin Obaseki and Philip Swaibo. Back to Obaseki, Izeyamo, and the people of Benin. I think the people of Benin stood their ground. They said no to democratic hanky-panky. They said no to democratic suppression. They said no to democratic lockdown. They came out, they voted, they stood by their votes, did vigil, and rejected cash for vote. That is where the Nigerian is going. And I want to salute the courage of Benin, the Edo people. You see, it is rare for you to stand for a change. It is rare for you to enact the character, the tenets of common sense revolution. It is rare for you to be who you ought to be. It is here for you to define your own destiny. It is rare for you to stand for the truths. Godwin Obaseki might not be an angel. He might not even be a good man. But at least he has an iota of self-worth. At least he has a defining personality. He took the bull by the horn. And I want to also applaud the maturity, the fatherly maturity of President Muhammadu Buhari. Let me let you know this today. A lot of people feel that President Buhari endorses some of these shenanigans. The shenanigan in Kogi State I think last year, President Buhari didn't support. Even the shenanigans you observe in Ekiti, in Osun, even in Ondo's Diboko Sebe, it is just some people, some forces who want to make statement. Of course, they are under the presidential covering. It might appear that they have the political will, they have the presidential endorsement and all that. But at times, you'll be shocked that even President Buhari himself feels so surprised at some things that happen, because he's a Puritan, he's a Spartan, he's not a materialistic person. He's not somebody that wants roads to be named after him in states. He's not somebody that wants to acquire properties across cities. He's not somebody that wants to acquire material wealth. He's just somebody that wants society to be organized in a very good way. And that is why you have the Buharists. They are different from the APC. The Buharists are different from PDP. That's the person the president is. He might be slighted at times. He might be pushed at times. But man, we need to react. We need to stand up to our own destiny. Godfatherism is what the Edo people said they don't want. And Godfatherism, if it's not productive, of course, it is genuine demand that it is jettisoned. Godfatherism is what the people of Edo State stand against. It's not about PDP. The victory of GODWIN Obaseki is not about PDP or APC. It was just a victory against forceful political presence. It is a victory against forceful political endorsement. It is a victory against forceful political indoctrination. You don't come and tell people how to run their own house. I have my own family, I have my own son, there is a good school. Okay, I have my own family, you have your own family, there is a good school in the neighborhood. And I want to take my child to that same school. Then you tell the management of the school that because you are an enthusiast of good education, they should not allow me to bring my own child to that school. That because when you are fighting for the foundation of that school, I was not supporting. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that add up? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. You cannot say because when you are fighting for war, a child was not born, so that child does not have benefits, does not have the right to benefit the good system of the post-war years. Just imagine a war veteran coming out to say, oh, a child that was born 40-something years ago is not eligible to be elected because when we were fighting for the war, the mother was not around or the father was enjoying himself in another land. I mean, it does not add up. It does not add up. You don't tell people how to run their own house. You don't come and tell a neighbor how to run a kitchen. Even if you go to your uncle's place for holiday, you can't tell his wife how to run a kitchen. It is her discretion. It is her own notion. It is her own privilege. You are just a visitor. So in Edo State, a lot of factors worked out. The intimidation factor, a lot of people felt they were intimidated in their own domain. Then the sympathy factor, a lot of people felt Governor Obaseki was highly intimidated politically. Then the corruption factor. This guy you brought in to come and contest against Governor GODWIN Obaseki, that is Pastor Sage Zeyamu. He was the former secretary to the government of the state under the regime of Governor Lucky Igbinedions. And from all indices, from indications in the press, He's alleged to be having a crisis, corruption crisis of 700 million that is still being investigated by financial corruption agencies. And you felt that as the cleanest candidate you can bring in. This same guy contested 4 years ago under PDP, and he was muzzled out, allegedly. But between then and now, his image has not changed from an alleged 700 million corruption case hanging on his neck. And even when you look at that the regime he served under didn't have a good reputation. And this is the same guy that you went to clean up and you brought back. God forgive me, it's like going to your toilet and taking the potty of your baby and you clean it up, you wash it very well, and you bring it to the kitchen to be used as a serving plate for guests at the dining room. It won't augur well. It won't augur well. It won't augur well. Nobody will, no reasonable person will stand to appreciate you for that. And look at GODWIN Obaseki. He has done it once. No matter his flaws, no matter his minuses, it is easier to allow the devil you know to continue than to bring in the angel you are suspicious of. You have also gone out to claim that this guy's destiny is to win. That is Obaseki. And you also claim in several videos that this other guy's destiny is to lose because he stole government money. In fact, there are papers, publication whereby you said you cannot give the guy a political position because he's a thief. So why did you bring him then? Why did you bring him? Why did you polish him and you are bringing him up? There are a lot of other things. I'm going to bring a comrade who just arrived from Benin. He's going to share what he knows about some of the things that is happening behind the scene, and he's going to give a kind of prop-ups to this appreciative broadcast. Comrade, please, can you speak from behind, sir? We thank you for your time coming out to talk to us. Sorry for the challenge to get to this place from the garage this morning, and sorry for the challenge of the power. Can you introduce yourself and tell us some of the things that worked, what can I call it, that worked for the emergence and the support that Governor GODWIN Obaseki got from the populace?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. My name is Comrade Oshiomhole, all the way from Edo State, Benin. We thank God for a successful election, and we have always been saying Edo State is not Lagos State.
Edo State is not Lagos State. That is interesting.
And the people of Edo State are not like the Yorubas. So first and foremost, now, if you look at Governor Obaseki, I wouldn't say when Oshiomhole was there, he didn't try. He tried his best.
Okay, you mean Governor Oshiomhole tried his best.
Now Obaseki came in and leveraged on that. The pensioners, during the time of Oshiomhole, you see them, they will line up to get their pension. During that process, some will even faint, and then some, at the end of the day, some will even lose their lives. But Obaseki came and said, no, this is a digitalized era. That shouldn't be happening. All of you submit your account details. On the 25th, all the pensioners have received their money. So don't you feel the pensioners will want him back?
So you mean that every 26th now, pensioners get their money paid, unlike the time of Governor Oshiomhole? He said that those times were horrible for pensioners and it was not a digitalized moment. So can you expatiate better on that? Because I want to get to know why there's this kind of sublime support for GODWIN Obaseki.
Okay, like I said, at the time of Adams Oshiomhole, the pensioners, they had to line on the line, expecting their pension. They might even be perambulating the premises for weeks before they will get paid. But now, Obaseki came and said, no, this is a new era. Let's make life easy for the people of Edo State. Every on the 25th, 26th, the pensioner has gotten their money. In fact, even to the extent the civil servant, in fact, I called a friend of recent. I said, how are you coping? I said, with this lockdown period, how are you coping? He said, my brother, we're just there, we're not going to work. I said, how are you not surviving? He said, thank God for GODWIN Obaseki that we still get paid every on the 25th, our full salary. I said, wow.
He was still paying them?
Yes, he was still paying their full salary.
Full salary every 25, despite the lockdown?
Despite the were at home, and there was a lockdown. So he said, thank God to GODWIN Obaseki. I said, wow. So those people will definitely want to vote for him. Now, in 2016, when Oba of Benin, the Oba that is there now, that is the AY second, the Ogidiga one of Benin Kingdom, that is the Oba AY the second. When he was coronated in then, the first thing he did was no more, the Yoruba call it Omonile. And immediately he stopped that. If you want to buy land now in Edo State, in Benin, you go in there freely, pay. Just there's nothing like if when you are building a house, no tout will come around and start harassing you. Unlike what they do in the southwest, they do in Lagos. Even if you just want to plaster, even if you just want to do renovation in your house, those boys will come and start asking you to pay a certain amount of money. The Oba of Benin stopped that in 2016 when he was coronated in. Now, I think in that same vein, the governor also saw that, okay, I think it's also good. Let's stop these NURT boys. They are becoming nuisance.
Okay, you mean NURT boys?
Boys.
That is the National Union boys that are collecting money in the motor parks, harassing commuters, harassing transporters, and making the transport fares to be very expensive.
Yes. Now, which was headed by Tony Kabaka. Tony Kabaka was the state chairman, and he said, no, let's stop it. At least when we stop it, transportation will be a bit easy. And then those of you that are doing this job, please go back to school. Go back to school. When you graduate, come back, we will employ you. Then he now initiated this card reader. So automatically created employment for those that are educated. They have to start applying for card reader. They start applying for those jobs. What they do is that there's a certain amount they just collect, and it will be done with a card reader, which you'll be giving your instant receipt. Unlike what happened in Lagos, in some southwest states, especially Lagos, if you drop a passenger in a bus stop, they will collect money. If you pick a passenger in a bus stop, those Agberus will collect money. Apart from those other money you must have paid in the park at every bus stop. So imagine from Oshodi, from toll gate to Oshodi, imagine the amount of money they collect. Imagine from Oshodi to Mile 2, imagine the amount those boys collect at every bus stop.
And where does it even go into? Who spend it? Who do they deliver all this money to? And what does the money do in terms of development of public utilities, in terms of helping government to make government easy, in terms of generation of revenue and all that?
The funniest part is that those money, there is no account for it. You drop a passenger, they tell you you have to pay. You drop 200 naira, no receipt, there is no accountability. In the morning, they will come and meet you. Owo aro, money, that is money for money. They will meet you in the afternoon. Owo osan. They will meet you for evening. All this, they don't even have receipt. In the morning, they will say, "Well, booking." You pay for booking, no receipt. So that automatically, the effect, the drivers are now putting the effect on the passengers. That is why you see sometimes from Oshodi, from toll gate to Oshodi, sometimes those guys can be so angry and call it 800 naira.
That's the transporters.
This transporter, is it their fault? It's not their fault, because there's already a system that collects that money from them. Sometimes they can even say it's 1,000 naira. Because why? There's already a system that collects the money from them.
Even the Okada men, from investigation, some drop as much as 800 naira per day in their park. And the Marwa people drop as much as 1,500 to 2,000.
You're not even getting it. The Okada, they drop as far as 1,500. And the Marwa drop as far as 3,000. Now there was a question I asked one day. I had an encounter with a Marwa man. I asked a question: if you have to book in the morning with 3,000, and the person that suffered, the owner of this Marwa that suffered buy this Marwa with 600,000, and you are also balancing that person 3,000, then someone is just coming from nowhere also collecting 3,000. Apart from some other settlement you still be doing, the police will still be there, you settle them and others. So now Obaseki came and said, okay, we are stopping this NUROT of a thing. It will also surprise you that if in Benin, they are still in Edo State, there are still transportation of 30 naira. You can even be going from Olia to what's this place? Let's say from Olia to, maybe you are going to you are going down this way, down the Siloko road. There are still transportation of 30 naira. Can you find that in Lagos? Can you find that in other places where there are these NUROT boys? Now, so these are some of the reasons why the Edo people came out and said no. Oshiomhole, because Tony Kabaka is your boy. These are the boys people use to do your dirty deals. Then you now say, because he has said there is no more Agberos, and you now say he must leave power. The Edo people are not daft now. They are not like the Yorubas that when Tinubu cough like this, they will want to defer, they will want to bury themselves. And then the Edo people say, Oga Oshiomhole, you cannot come and decide for us. This guy is doing us well. And also there are some other roles that he did. There are infrastructure, he did infrastructure as well. There are also a lot of infrastructure he did. A lot of infrastructure he did. So Oshiomhole was just fighting from his own selfish interest. That okay, you remove my boy Tony Kabaka from his daily. Okay, let me also shock you. I have a cousin. He was part of the NUROT boys. He was the one in charge of. There's a place close to Unibe. He was the one in charge of that garage. But you know, when he came to me, there were some things he was telling me. I was just like, wow, what's the meaning of all this? Has Nigeria gotten to that level? This person I'm talking about was the chairman of NUROT in a Marwa garage. Let me say, it was not the chairman, it was the head. He said, do you know that by 12 o'clock, he already have up to 20,000 in his pocket without doing anything?
That's 12 p.m.
12 p.m., 12 noon. Then he said they can even beat up a Marwa man. They can beat they can even beat them to have that. Now even when the police come, that their guy will just, maybe Tony Kabaka will just call the DP and say, they are my boys, leave them. And automatically they will leave them. Look at those kind of a thing.
That
now,
is high level of injustice.
Thank you. Now Obaseki came and say, no, all this rubbish must stop. And then you now feel the Edo people should not come out and vote for him. You can see how it was. People, even when the APC were trying to buy vote, they said, no, we don't want this money. This this election depend. Our life depend on this election. Even to the extent, you know that some people have to even do night vigil because they don't want anything to happen to their vote. They want their vote to count. So Oshiomhole has actually done a great mistake. He should go back and retrace his step.
Now I want to ask you. So I want to ask you this question because I was saying I'm going to ask you, but somebody said I should not ask you. But let me ask you. I am sure you'll have read about the case of Ambode in 2019 in Lagos and how he was pushed out of government by some political hawks who said he was not settling them. That though he's hardworking, he's innovative, but he does not settle. Is there anything that is? Do you see any difference between Ambode's case and GODWIN Obaseki? And do you think if Ambode has taken the same step GODWIN Obaseki took by dumping the party to join another party, do you think we'll have won Tinubu in Lagos as Obaseki won Oshiomhole in Benin in Edo State?
Well, that was why before I started talking, I said Edo is not Lagos, and the Edos are not like the Yorubas. In fact, Ambode did excellently well. In fact, because I reside in Lagos, I shuttle between Edo State and Lagos. Sometimes I reside in Benin, sometimes I come, but mostly I reside in Lagos. Ambode did well. Ambode went into the rural area, developed them. How can you say you are a leader? That is Honorable Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You said Ambode did well, but he's not a party man. If not that the Yorubas are cowards, that is where they are supposed to wake up and say, no, this man must stand. Well, the decision Ambode took was also okay for not leaving the party because he knows the Yorubas. They will disappoint him. The Yorubas will disappoint him. If his deputy can betray him, so who else should he now rely on? If his own deputy could betray him, who else? So Ambode took a very good decision by not decamping, because if he had decamped the Yoruba that I know that Tinubu has enslaved, they will disappoint him. It's just for Tinubu to just come, all of them will start shivering, and then they will dance to the tune of Tinubu.
But with this victory now, from what you are getting from your state of Edo State, how do you think Oshiomhole is going to feel afterwards? And because Obaseki seems to have been able to overpower, and I want to believe that he has certainly eradicated his political hegemony. What do you see after this victory? What do you think is going to happen to Oshiomhole as a political godfather? Because you could see that he was disgraced at the national, and he was also sacked at home, and now it appears that his political coffin has been dumped in the soil. So what is going to happen to him?
Well, when someone is too, how will I put it, is too power drunk, and when you are too, how will I put it, when you are too anxious, when you are too ambitious. Yes, thank you, that's the right word. When someone is too ambitious, that is how the end result always comes. When you are too ambitious, you are too power drunk. You want to be here, you want to be there, you want to be here, you want to be there, you want to be here. Look at the another statement that we respect so much in Edo State. That was Pa Oyegun. That was the former national chairman. You came, you did all you could do. You remove him out of it. He was too ambitious, and that is what happened to whosoever that is too ambitious. So, well, as for Edo State, we thank God for the success of this election. and I believe that this is now a new era in the politics of Edo State. And whoever that is coming on board will know that, oh, let me do what I can do and live. There is no everlasting enslavement, just like what the Bondulon man is doing to the Yorubas.
You have really given a very wonderful analysis of the Edo State. It is going to be left to the opinion of a lot of people if it is true that the man you mentioned has been able to enslave a great race like Yoruba. I wouldn't say that he has been able to do that because I believe we have intelligentials in the Yoruba race. Unfortunately, it might just appear that it's just a section. It's not the general Yoruba race, because we have a lot of intelligent people in Yoruba land, in London, in America, in Canada, in Ekiti, in Oyo, in every other place, every other part. It appears that it happens in Lagos and Osun. It's quite unfortunate. But at the same time, we should also appreciate the fact that Adams Oshiomhole was able to stop some bourgeois of the PDP. And the election of Governor Obaseki is not about PDP. I'm not really fancied about PDP or whatever. It's just about the gut to fight political humiliation. I mean, the gut to say no when people want to take your destiny and toss it around. It's not about PDP or APC, but it's about self-determination. It's about self-finding, and I can call it self-discovery, political self-discovery. It is something that everybody must encourage, and it is something that we must give kudos to. The Benin people, and that's why I brought this honor. I brought my wonderful honorable to give some little analysis. There are other people that we wanted to reach out to, but you see, because of the rain today in Lagos and some other challenges. But you see, the bottom line is that Edo people stood for what they believed in. It's not about PDP. Nobody is saying that any PDP man is a star. Who are you going to say is a star among them? I mean, but we want to thank God for everybody that contributed, no matter whose face is shown on We want to thank God for everybody, the Benin people, especially for their courage, for their sense of leadership, for their sense of discipline, for their sense of loyalty, for their sense of sacrifice. A time will come in the land that people will need a renaissance, a revolution. You cannot continue to lead people in a way that does not benefit them in the entirety. You cannot continue to lead people in a way that social justice is not found. You cannot be continue to lead people in a way that economic emancipation is diluted with economic victimization. You cannot put the economic power of a state in the hand of non-state actors in a system whereby people that appears to be touts are more richer than people that went to school to earn a degree to survive, in a situation whereby degree holders are now the people driving Keke Marwa, driving Okada. The system has to be re-engineered. There must be a redirection of social order, and this is something that we are saying. A lot of rational people are also saying it. Godfatherism will come to a halt if it is not productive, and if it is not proactive in terms of getting social amenities in the right place. If it has to do with accumulating social amenities for the benefit of the few, then we will now tell you that there will be a renaissance. Okay, let's talk about in the 14th century there was renaissance, and I will read part of it for you so that you understand the spirit and the letter of a renaissance. It says, when you think of the differences between medieval and modern times, you already think first of the great difference in material objects. Modern people have machines, tools, and weapons that medieval people never dreamed of. There is, however, another and perhaps even greater difference: a difference in attitude when thinking about life. A difference in attitude when thinking about life, and this applies to politics, religion, and all the rest. The heart of the change from medieval times was people's willingness to look in new ways at what happened in the world around them. One of the main features of modern times is the interest in explaining events and natural developments in their own terms. Religious beliefs remain strong, but it ceased to be the only means of describing how events occurred. Politics, for example, was no longer explained in spiritual terms, but was seen as a form of human behavior. In studying the physical world, people no longer felt the need to blame supernatural forces for such events as floods or volcanic eruptions. Finally, people gradually came to believe that what one achieved on earth can be worthwhile in itself. Of course, these changes in attitude did not occur overnight, nor did they affect all of Europe. Like many other changes, they cannot be traced to a set period of time or definite places. Many historians believe that they grew out of philosophical and artistic movement that began in Italy around 1350, spread into northern Europe, and had effect well beyond 1700. Because this movement centered on revival of interest in the classical learning of Greece and Rome, it is known as the Renaissance, a French word meaning rebirth. Some scholars think of the Renaissance as merely a continuation and development of the Middle Ages. Others think of it as a break with medieval life and thought, the beginning of modern times. The term Renaissance is applied not only to a philosophical and artistic movement, but also to the period during which it flourished. This period saw many important developments: the invention of the printing press, advances in science, and new emphasis on reason. It also was a period in which criticism of the medieval church led to a movement in Christianity that was known as the Reformation. Now, this is just a tip of the iceberg of what the spirit and letter of Renaissance is. At different time in this particular world, there were changes on how we relate, how we do things, how people invade our privacy, how people invade our philosophies, how people direct our course of living, how we want it to be for us. Today in Nigeria, you are talking about high cost of living, electricity is on a high rise, even petroleum, people are complaining, good roads is like a luxury. Of course, the president is doing few things, but in the city where you stay, you look at your roads, you look at there is no social stability between low earners and high income earners. People pay high amount of money to their landlords. There's nobody that is moderating that relationship. Landlords can wake up and just increase rent. The private school, they wake up and they just put out any amount of money. If you have it, you put your child there. If you don't have it, nobody. The only thing that is helping many people is technology, taking them away from this physical misdemeanor. Today now, transportation is on a high side. People go in the city of Lagos, you see a lot of things. Even in the city of Benin, like my comrade I just said, people collect money for no just fun of it, buy jeep, buy cars, live luxurious life at the detriment of general society. And you want that to continue, and the lowest people will know that a godfather has put somebody somewhere, and those people are not doing anything. You look at the House of Assembly, all of you are saying, oh, he stopped 14 House members from sitting. He did this. If he has an inkling that they are going to impeach him, will you allow him to just sit down and be looking idly and they will remove him and everybody will take him for granted and abuse him? No, it has always happened in other politics. Even when Adams Oshiomhole was there, we learned that he also did the same thing by removing the roof of Anthony Nahoro House in Benin. So there are a lot of ways to go about it, but people don't want to just concentrate on hard work. A lot of boys hanging around, smoking in the garage, in the motor parks. They would rather go to the motor park and become a tout, become a member of an organization that takes money from people. And you will see even the environment of the motor garage is dirty. It's not good. So you ask yourself, where are this money going? You collect thousands of naira from Okada riders, thousands from Keke Marwa, Napep, Keke Napep, thousands of naira, millions of naira from transporters every single blessed day. and people cannot go out. Even the government vehicle that are there, the money is even expensive. Tickets 250, 300, just one trip. You know, so who is in charge of moderating the social amenities of people? Who? Why do you put a lot of burden on people? So the Benin people, that is what they said. And this broadcast is going to end now. Finally, we want to give kudos to God Almighty. The name of Godwin Obaseki also played a role. Godwin is a good name, which suggests that God wins in all ramifications. No matter who you are, even if you are the biggest and the most strongest godfather, God will always win you. Then there's another one, Nogheghaze. Nogheghaze, the second name means that the one that his own surpasses. That is the beauty and the spirituality of Godwin Obaseki's name. Nogheghaze in Benin means the one whose his own surpasses. That means he surpasses every other person. Then the Obaseki itself means that the king is bigger than the market. You look at the market, you look at the politics, the firework between PDP and APC, and eventually this guy came up. So that's why I said it is not about PDP, it's not about APC, it's not about any faces. It's just about God, who won in this case, and Nogheghaze, whose own surpasses everybody, and Obaseki, the king, who is bigger than the market. Till the next time I will bring another video to you, we want you to continue the discourse as we look for new stories and new insights to guide you on the political drive. Till then, God bless you. Goodbye.